This is the LEGO Star Wars 2007 Trade Federation MTT, widely regarded by fans as a top 5 LEGO Star Wars set of all time, and for good reason. It's set number 7662 with 1,326 pieces, and when it was initially released, it cost just $100. Adjusted for inflation as of the recording of this video, it's about $150, but if that nostalgia wave hit you, or if you really just wanted the best LEGO MTT to date, you're really looking at over $1,000 for this set sealed in box nowadays, which is just absurd, but it also speaks to the greatness of this set because clearly a lot of people want it to cause the price to get that high. Now, as you stare at the box, I feel like you might agree with me that this is one of the most perfect LEGO Star Wars set presentations ever. It's got the MTT opened up, you've got the droids coming out and into battle. In the background, you've got a shot from the Phantom Menace, and on the bottom right, there's a call out saying that this set includes 20 battle droids, very similar to the Build Your Army callouts that were put on battle packs starting in 2007 as well. I feel like I don't always show the top of the box in reviews, but this one is a sight to behold. It does show all 20 of those battle droids in actual size. It's pretty cool. The back of the box does a great job highlighting the many play features that we'll take a look at throughout this review, as well as some other sets from 2007. So clearly, the packaging for this set is a big highlight. Now, when it comes to unboxing, you're actually not going to find numbered bags, even though the $100 set from the previous summer did include numbered bags. So they were still kind of new for LEGO Star Wars playsets at the time, so I'm not super surprised that they weren't here, but it is something you'd kind of expect given they were there the year before. To build the set, they give you 2 separate instruction manuals, and the inside cover of the first one is another sight to behold, as it just has you building so many battle droids all at once. The back of these manuals also had it going on with some art highlighting the 2007 battle packs. Boy, would I love a full-size poster of that. And they highlight the January 2007 lineup, so very cool instruction manuals, just like you'd expect. Now, you basically got an entire droid army when you bought this set, with 16 regular battle droids, 2 security battle droids, 2 pilot droids, and as a cherry on top, it also included a Droideka. Seeing all of that together is just amazing for one set to contain. Now, they had released the Droids Battle Pack earlier in 2007, but you actually didn't need to buy it to add more droids to this MTT. These were all the battle droids you needed. How great is that? You just bought the set, you got everything you needed all at once, and it was kind of important that it was done that way because this was the time they were switching out the arms for the battle droids, going from the curved arm with the megaphone blaster to the straight arm with the modern blaster that we all know and love today. I still don't understand why the droid arms weren't changed at the beginning of 2007 to match the fact that the blasters had also changed at the beginning of 2007, but it definitely added to the hype of this MTT that the battle droids would be this newer style with these newer blasters and look so much better. Now, while the battle droids we have here are a fairly timeless design, the security battle droids and the pilot droids are missing some details that you might see modern day, with some prints at the back of the head or some prints on the torso. Like, they are just the bare bones versions of those figures where the torso is just a recolor of a regular battle droid torso instead of having any more detail added on. But for the time in 2007, that was more than acceptable. It was definitely enough to get the job done. Before I discuss the Droideka, I want to hear what I said about it back in 2009. Excuse the shaky camera.
A destroyer droid, Droideki. I like to call them Droidekis. Brand new design. It's awesome. Oh, I like the old ones better because they actually stay together and hold up.
So I don't think I still think this Droideka is awesome, but I do agree with myself that the original version was better. And honestly, all these years later, I think that original Droideka is probably still the best Droideka. I still don't think they've topped that in 2024, which is just crazy. I couldn't have imagined when I was filming that video I'd be here all these years later and they still wouldn't have topped the original Droideka. But this one is okay. I think there are people that really like this one and still have a lot of nostalgia for it. And as much nostalgia as I have for the rest of the set, the Droideka just isn't it for me. It has the issue, of course, where it's not going to be able to completely roll up into a ball because the legs are stationary. I think the color on this one was a very interesting choice too. It's not a bad choice, but an interesting choice. Like, I don't think it's a terrible Droideka, but it's kind of like the battle droids. They kind of had it down the first time, outside of maybe making a small change here or there, like adding the straight arm on the battle droid. Now, while there's absolutely nothing special about any of the individual droids in the set, what was special about it is that they gave you everything you needed. They didn't hold anything out so that you would go buy more battle packs and buy more complementary sets to fill out your droid army, whatever. They just gave it all to you. And that's something you don't see a lot of the time these days with some of the marquee troop carrier sets. So I'm not talking about maybe the smaller type of droid carriers where they do actually include enough droids to fill it out, but a set like an ATT, a set like a Republic gunship, they just never give you enough. but in this case they did, and that's what's special about it. Shifting our attention to the beautiful build, I think there's one thing that's very fair to criticize, and that's the use of dark bluish gray on this build. Now, the original model of the MTT in the year 2000 used a lot of gray and tan and green and looked horrible. So this was a vast improvement upon that, but it's also notable that the 2014 MTT basically got rid of all the gray and went completely brown, like feels most accurate to the Phantom Menace. And so it makes you wonder why they used gray here. And I don't think the answer is because they thought it looked great. I think the answer is because a couple of these pieces that they used to get the shape so good on this MTT didn't exist in reddish brown in 2007. And actually in the case of these pieces here, they literally to this day still don't exist in reddish brown. Although I don't think that's a great excuse because LEGO could just put a different color dye into the plastic and just make the piece in the color that we need it to be for a set like this. But the point remains that at the time they weren't producing it. And so I think because of that, instead of having like 8 pieces just look completely out of place, they mixed in a little bit more dark gray in a few more places to make it feel like it's supposed to be part of the design instead of, I don't know, like the 2000 MTT just having a random green piece. I feel like they tried to make it not stick out, and I think it worked. Now, I think one of the reasons a lot of people love this MTT design, myself included, is the lack of studs. They didn't go out of their way too much to have a ton of LEGO studs, and even the pieces that have studs on them are still predominantly tile pieces. So you end up with a really clean, smooth look on the MTT. It's something you don't always see on LEGO Star Wars builds. A lot of times they'll go and add even more studs than feels necessary, but it's always, of course, to give it a LEGO feel is what they say. But I love this one because of how few studs there are. It is something that really stands out to me here. When it comes to the blaster cannons and the armor surrounding the inner workings for it behind it, they did a great job with the shape and also the angle. That was a very important thing for them to get right on this set, and I feel like they really did. They've got some really good part usage of that windscreen piece in the reddish brown color. The blaster cannons can be moved to point in different directions. However, you do need to hold the area behind it down. Otherwise, you're going to pull the whole thing out. It is also notable that the blaster cannons are supposed to be of equal length, but for this set, the top one has been pushed back a little bit further. So I would say the color and that are maybe the two major inaccuracies with the look of this set. Now, within the sea of brown on the MTT, there is kind of this black section on the lower area of the MTT. And on one side, it just looks like it's a nice engine or something. The cross-section reference I used didn't tell me exactly what it was, but on the other side, it looks similar, except it has an extra knob, and that knob will allow you to use maybe one of the top LEGO Star Wars play features of all time. So yeah, you can literally deploy the battle droids into battle, at least when there's battle droids on there. On the troop rack, you just need to remove the bottom pieces, and then you can take each of your 16 regular battle droids, fold them over, and place them onto the rack. It's super simple to do. It just is a little bit redundant at a point because there are 16 of them, but it is something that looks amazing when it's completely filled out. And for dramatic effect, let's do it again with the battle droids actually on the troop rack. It's also just so amazing that it perfectly pushes that bottom and top panel piece just like in the movie, and that top piece actually stays up like it's supposed to. It doesn't fall back down and flop in your way. It just stays up. Now, when you push that troop deployment rack back into the MTT, the top and bottom hatches don't actually go with it like they do come out with it, but you just manually push them back into their position, and it's easy as that. It's got to be a top 5 coolest and, of course, accurate LEGO Star Wars play feature of all time. The top part of the MTT houses the control room, and again, some nice part usage with these very large reddish brown panels to make up the top part of the MTT in just a couple of pieces, but you've got a removable platform on the inside that's got a couple of printed control panels, a couple antenna pieces, and of course there's a seat for your battle droid pilot whose feet actually connect to the pieces underneath the control panel to make sure he doesn't fly around anywhere. But with him in there, you can place him back in the MTT, and then kind of interesting, there's these side hatches that you can actually view the inside of the control room as well with. The larger panels beneath that can also be lifted up. You'll see some of our battle droids stored inside, but on the left there's actually the weapons rack with 16 blasters for all 16 of your battle droids. So when you deployed those battle droids into battle, of course none of them held the blasters in their hands, but they're actually stored separately inside of the MTT with a pretty cool rack design. Now you might already know, of course, but I wonder what the designers were thinking as they built this. Like, what do we do with this back big section of the MTT where we can kind of fit anything? And if you pull down the panels on either side, you get a real good preview of that, because that is where your little miniature, and it's not so miniature, it's not tiny, I would say, it's small, but it's not tiny, a droid carrier is stored. You've got a little radar dish on there, and it's also carrying a couple of larger LEGO Star Wars rifles, and it is also removable. And so what you might have noticed is all of these removable pieces in the set have the same exact compact system, so it's all interchangeable. You can put any of these anywhere you want. So if you want to have this be your little battle droid carrier and carry 8 battle droids on its own, you can do that. If you want to have this thing just carry the weapons, you can do that. And it's just something that adds to this set's greatness, that there's such great interchangeability between each of the sections of the set. Looking at the bottom of the MTT, they could have done the inverted tile thing, but I'm super glad they opted for the 6 wheels, as the movement becomes super smooth for this MTT, and you can move it much faster when you want to. It's got a nice momentum to it when you let go of it. There's just a lot of reasons that the wheels are better than the inverted tiles, especially on something that's as heavy as this MTT. Now, before we get to my final thoughts, if you remember earlier in the video, I played a clip from the ad for this MTT from 2007. I noticed at the end, they actually show a prototype box for the MTT, and then I found another picture of a prototype box for the MTT, so I figured I'd show those to you here. I just thought they were cool and worth sharing. Part of me fears that this will always be the best LEGO MTT and that we'll never get anything better than it, but part of me also thinks that one day LEGO would actually make a UCS version of the MTT. It would blow this out of the water, and all of a sudden you're looking at this whole review being like, what is he talking about? That set sucks. But I think this is one of those LEGO Star Wars sets that is timeless. It's been 17 years, and I still feel almost the same way I did about this set when I got it when I was 10. Like, it's just that kind of LEGO Star Wars set. I think it's absolutely one of those that if you can afford it, whether you're buying it used or new in box, it's worth owning. It's one of those very few top-tier LEGO Star Wars sets that's in the very special conversation for possibly being your favorite or the best LEGO Star Wars set of all time. I don't think it's quite there. I think there's a few sets I would put ahead of it, but it's certainly still worthy of being in that conversation. And when there's been so many sets after 25 years, just being in the conversation is pretty dang good. So yeah, I can't give it a 10 out of 10. It's got a couple small issues that could have been ironed out, but I think a 9.9 is a more than fair rating. The value, the display, the play of the set is just all off the charts. And don't forget, you got all the battle droids you needed. So let me know what y'all think about this set in the comments below, and you can check out more LEGO Star Wars set reviews on the end screen now.